Change is hard to accept. It is harder still when we have no choice, when it is an outside force that makes the change inevitable. And worse still, when the change is sudden. We as human beings like to be able to plan, to have the illusion that we are in charge of our own destinies. One of the most difficult things for us to accept is loss of control. We will choose to deny reality as long as possible, rather than give up the self-deception of power. When change starts coming fast and furious, we tend to throw up our defenses all the more. We reminisce about how things were in the good old days. We ignore any evidence that contradicts what we want to believe. And we ridicule and disregard the words of anyone who tries to show us the truth. And so it was for the apostles in the upper room. The crucifixion had just happened a few days earlier. They had gone from being the leading advisors of a popular healer and preacher in Galilee to parading into Jerusalem in triumph, to having their charismatic leader arrested and crucified. They were trying to figure out how to deal with this horrific turn of events. They were in fear for their own lives, as the Romans were known for their brutality in executing not only the leaders of insurrectionist movements, but anyone connected to that leader. And it was still early in the morning, and it would be over a millennium before tea or coffee would be introduced to Jerusalem. The apostles were still waking up, dazed to the reality of the crucifixion, when Mary Magdalene, Joanna, and Mary, the mother of James, came bursting into their morning routines with the news of the resurrection. And so, like so many of us today, when confronted with a new reality, however welcome, they declared it to be fake news. These women must be hysterical, because you know how women get. Never mind that it was the women who stayed at Jesus' side at the last. People don't just come back to life. Peter alone among the apostles deigns to at least go for himself to see the tomb. And for that tiny bit of faith, curiosity, of willingness to trust in the unknown, of foresight, Peter is remembered as the greatest of the apostles. Throughout the Gospels, Peter comes across repeatedly as rather dense, self-centered, and self-serving. But in this critical moment, he actually was willing to put everything he knew aside. Peter did not quite trust the words of the women, and while the women first preached the good news, Peter and the other men quickly overshadowed them. But when the moment came, he was open to the possibility of a new reality. And I think in Peter, we have an inspiration for our times. We have been through the horrors of the height of the pandemic. We seem to be coming to a place of endemic COVID. It is never going to truly go away. And there will be times of increased and decreased prevalence, but fewer people are dying. Now we are waking up to a world that has been changed. Friends and family members have been lost. Relationships have been forever shattered, and we might never get back to some of the things we used to do. But we are free from many of the strictures of the height of the pandemic, and now we need to figure out how we move on in hope from here. We cannot go back to the world we once knew. We can only go forward into an unknown future. And that is what we are called to do this Easter. To lay aside our old lives, to embrace this new world, and to find a new way forward in this forever changed life. Hallelujah! Jesus Christ is risen today.